I don't think this is even about anti-Semitism. This is about the fact that this feels very personal. We don't like that you're teaching that. We want to take it over. And if you don't do what we say...
So we're not going to educate you here? Who's going to educate them? We want China to do it for us?
Let's hop into a CNN panel breaking down Trump's continued attacks against Harvard. So if you can, leave us a like. It helps us out tremendously in the algorithm. And let's get right into the debate and see what context we can add.
How dare we say we're going to kick you out just because, in this particular case, it started because of that young lady from Tufts University who wrote that op-ed piece that criticized Israel, didn't go after Israel, didn't threaten Israel.
I have to say, she didn't even, the op-ed was about the university's response
correct.
To protests.
You
it wasn't
read
even so much
was,
about the bigger issues.
It was unbelievable. I really enjoyed the op-ed piece. So my perspective is, okay, if we're going to kick them out and say we're not going to educate you here, who's going to educate them? We want China to do it for us? Let's keep doing this. Or we're going to ask Harvard, you know what, go ahead and put a campus, Harvard, London, and let the money flow there. When you said 27%, we're talking about 40-something hundred students. Think about the impact on Boston. Think about the impact on the best and brightest minds from the world who come here to teach us and learn things about research and learn things about breakthroughs. That's not going to happen anymore.
When we talk about trade surpluses, this is a place where the United States has a huge trade surplus. We export so much education. People are paying us from all over the world.
And that's because critical thought is a huge threat to Trump. The more you can critically engage with the things he says, the more likely you are to realize it's all a lie. The 2020 election wasn't stolen. Biden didn't weaponize the DOJ. These judges ruling against him aren't corrupt. And so he wants to attack these institutions of higher thought as a means to gatekeep people from accessing them, accessing that ability to think like that, keeping out the influx of culture and diversity in thought that foreign students bring. But the downstream effects is where it affects a lot of Americans in other ways through research, medical research that keeps us less safe, or economically in the cities these universities are located in.
Based off of Harvard's own investigation of itself. Right. So how do you go before a judge and say they're not doing anything about it when they've already put out the plan?
Well, not just that, Abby. It's like, let's be real. I don't think this is even about anti-Semitism. This is about the fact that this feels very personal. That they're doing all these things at Harvard. I'm like, did Barron Trump not get in? Like what happened, right? And it's about what it says about how they want to control other universities. We already know how this administration feels about DEI. What if they go into use a historically black college and say, we don't like that you're teaching that. We want to take it over. And if you don't do what we say, it's about the precedent that is set. Because I promise you, if another president that wasn't this guy did this, everybody would be outraged.
I mean, it's pretty blatantly government overreach when you're openly threatening private institutions, private universities to try and get them to comply with your agenda. And to do so, you're threatening funds that are used for research and student aid, partially, but overwhelmingly research. So only hurting the American people ought to set a precedent that you're allowed to do this and bully private institutions because you pay them for a service, where again, shoe on the other foot, our conservatives are going to say it's okay if Democrats come in and are like, we want mandatory quotas by race and genders and all the university faculty and a mandatory woke elective for each student or something, you know, like MAGA's inability to critically think has them so short-sighted where it's easy to cheer this on for them because it feels like winning, but it creates a horrendous and dangerous standard.
Harvard takes that money to provide a service, which is research.
Which
largely, by and large, it is research. That is what, and there are not, I think people think that research is happening everywhere all the time. It's not. There are only so many places who can do it at the level that they do it at the top universities, research institutions in the country.
Look at the Brigham and Women's. I've been a board member on Ann Romney's foundation at the Brigham and Women's for 10 years now, doing neurological research. That research costs money. And unfortunately, the way we have set up research in America, I did a study for a medical device over a course of 6 years, $100 million to do 2 double-blind studies. What? Why is research costing this much? That's the first thing. So universities like this have a lot of money. They have a huge endowment, but that endowment is going to actually pay for the petri dishes. They're going to pay for all the experimental, super duper MRIs and things that they have, and all the research, PET scans, SPECT scans, all those kinds of things.
And this is one of those things to me where enough moments like this should make a light bulb go off for MAGA to realize they're being lied to and manipulated. Trump largely is playing on their ignorance of how government works to get support to take down those he views as his enemies. People don't understand that these large universities provide some of the only research institutes that are able to produce these clinical trials, and the government funds those through the endowments they send to these schools. They're essentially paying for a service. Trump, however, makes it seem like Harvard is taking the money as a handout and pocketing it when it's not that at all. Imagine if Joe Biden said, well, now I can tell Tesla what to do because the government has contracts with Elon Musk. But this is just how Trump does it, right? All while making us poorer and less safe as a country to wield the government as his cudgel or weapon against his enemies. Go MAGA though, right? Like, oh, worker first or whatever they claim.